At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Jody so that we can dive into today's webinar, Getting Started with Smart Learning Suite Online.
Well, I have the great pleasure of really introducing Smart Learning Suite Online with you all. Before I do that, Sarah, you already said that you're from Pennsylvania, but will you give us a little bit of your background?
Oh, sure. So I was a former teacher as well, and I was on the elementary side of things. So I was a K-5 teacher. I had the chance to teach in South Dakota, Alaska, and Pennsylvania too. But yeah, now working near the Philadelphia area with Smart. So I love just working with teachers every day, whether in settings like this or maybe one-on-one with teachers. So I'm excited to hear how you're going to be getting started with Smart Learning Suite Online today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And I'm so glad Sarah's here as a co-host. You are in good hands because if you are a Google user, she is your girl. So if you're like, hey, I really want to know how Smart Learning Suite Online works with Google, we might not cover all of it today. I'll mention it, show you, but at the same time, Sarah's going to be one that could really answer those questions for you. So in a nutshell, if you are brand new to Smart Learning Suite Online, I just want to share with you how wonderful this platform is for your workflow, for the teacher's workflow. It can transform the content that you already have. Of course, we always want to ignite that excitement with our students and also capture that insight into learning that we need, that data and all those other important things. So just in a nutshell, Smart Learning Suite has all of these tools and features built inside of it, if you did not know. We're going to try to touch on each one of these in some manner. And if we don't, we're going to give you some resources that you can take a look and dive in for yourself. So looking at all of these wonderful features, I'm excited to show you what this looks like when you put things together. And as Sarah mentioned, I would love for you to be doing this with me. So you might have to split your screen and have the Zoom webinar on one side and then open up Smart Learning Suite Online on the other. If you are brand new, I'm going to show you how you can do that. You simply go to suite.smarttech.com. If you're a Google user, I'll show you where you go on that. But what we're going to do today is we're actually going to take you through 5 steps. 5 really easy steps. So first of all, we're going to get started with YouTube and a blank page. I'm going to show you how to enhance that content. And then we're going to show you how to engage your learners by converting some of the pages that you have created or you have in Smart Learning Suite Online and make them into individual handouts or collaborative workspaces, because we know that power behind the collaborative workspace, right, Sarah? Like anything we can do to bring collaboration into our classroom learning environment is so powerful.
I know, even if I have students learning in the classroom, at home, maybe a mix of both, right? So SLSO just really gives us that opportunity to give kids a chance to work together.
I always call it your one-stop shop. Like this is the one tool that I can't live without, that I need. And so I'm so happy to be able to show you that. Well, after developing all these wonderful, lessons and activities in Smart Learning Suite Online, we really need to know how to deliver it to our students, whether we're in the classroom face-to-face or in, maybe we're still in a remote setting or in a hybrid. We've got you covered. I'm going to show you how to connect to your student devices so that they can interact with the lessons that you just created. And then, of course, we want to share. If you're in an asynchronous setting, I'm going to show you how you can share your lessons to your students in an asynchronous place. But what we're going to do is I'm going to actually go out of Smart Learning Suite Online right here, and I want to take you to the dashboard, the home page. So if you're with me on your device, yours might look a little different because I personalized my banner. But if you can see right here, you should have your name. Now, this is your very first time logging into suite.smarttech.com. You probably have to go through a wizard. And it's going to ask you if you are a Google user or if you're a Microsoft user. So depending on thinking about your school credentials, that's what you usually will sign in to Smart Tech or suite.smarttech.com. If you are a Google user, you are actually going to go through your Google Drive. Now, we do have some webinars that show you how to dive into the Google Drive integration with Smart Learning Suite Online. And that will help you if you are a Google user, just so you have that. But as we go through the field trip right here of the dashboard, I want to point out a couple really important features that that I want you to be aware of. And first of all, I really want you to channel your inner kindergartner right now, because I want you to click away and just say, what's that? What's that? What's that? Because it will help you really navigate through Smart Learning Suite Online. So real quickly, up here in the upper right-hand corner, this has this little emoji, actually has some really great features underneath here. So take a look if you are new to Smart Learning Suite Online and you want to see kind of what's going on in it. You can find out what's new. We have a welcome intro video, which pops up the very first time that you are in Smart Learning Suite Online. And also you might notice if you are a brand new user, you're going to get these little call out coaching bubbles that kind of help you navigate the first couple times you're in Smart Learning Suite Online. So we're really here to give you the best experience possible. So underneath your emoji up here, you actually have a little edit class. If you click on that button, there's a couple possibilities for you to take a look at. So if you need to rename your class, which right now my name is Jody Bean on my the SLSO homepage, I could rename it if I wanted to. And you have other things. If you want to personalize your banner like I did, right here is where you can add that image. But take a look at those so you can get familiar. But really where I want to spend the most of our time together is these three buttons right here. And then we're going to dive into actually creating some content. And as I am doing that, remember, you can create exactly what I am doing, or if you have a particular lesson or idea, feel free to go ahead and create that also. But you can see exactly what I'm doing and just cater it to what your needs are. But before we do that, I want to show you this gray button, and it says training. If you click on it, it's actually going to take you into a really great training site. And what I want to mention right here is that this is a bite-size training site. So what that means is that if you're really wanting to go into Smart Learning Suite Online and learn about it, you can use it just like I'm showing you today in 5 easy steps. So if you scroll down, it's kind of like choose your own adventure. So you can decide how you want to start using Smart Learning Suite Online by looking right here. And then if you look right at the very bottom of each one of these little images, you can watch a short video that's going to help you navigate through and doing exactly and embedding what you want in Smart Learning Suite Online. And then there's also a how-to. And as you go through, you can see if you want to add a game-based activity or you want to add audio, we've got you covered. And the best part about it is that if you are in Smart Learning Suite Online, that training button is always there. So I want you to try to use it. And if you get stuck, this is a great place to go and kind of just reevaluate what you're doing. We also have a button right here, this light blue button. This is a fairly new feature that we have, but it is going to be fabulous. If you click on it, it's going to take you into a repository, a collections repository of a whole bunch of Smart Learning Suite Online lessons and activities. And the best part about it is that when you click on one of these, so let's say I want this book review, I will click on it. It's going to take me into a window and I can decide if I want to save it, I can view it, I can see what it looks like, and then I can add it to my library. And I can even post this lesson on my favorite social media and say, hey, check this out. Because who doesn't want to have a lesson that they didn't have to create and that they can use in their classroom tomorrow? So take a look at the resources. Sarah, what do you think about the new resources?
Oh, I absolutely love it. I was just popping in the chat. I just love being able to go in and use a resource that another teacher created, maybe share that with another teacher. Maybe I could customize it a little bit. It just saves me so much time.
Oh my gosh, saves so much. And the good news is that all the we're always adding new lessons inside the resources. So stay tuned and keep looking at it, right? So that's a really great place to maybe start your first lesson that you might find. But for today, what I want to do is really focus on this big green button. You can't miss it, right? This is where we call supercharging your lessons. Now, I'm going to go ahead and click on this, and you can too. And what I want to do is I want to actually start creating some lessons for you, and take a look at what we can do here. We can import our own content, if it's a PowerPoint or a PDF, or if I'm a Google user, so I have access to my Google files. Also, if you were a Google user, you would see that too. Also, I can put in a YouTube video. I'm going to show you how you can do that. And the best part about it is that it is a safe search and it's commercial free. It is embedded in the lesson, and students aren't going to see questionable, commercials. So it's a perfect solution for those teachers that like to use video in their classroom. And as we go through, you can see that we have a whole bunch of different activities and templates. You can add your own page. But I think what I like, and we'll show you in a minute, is all the ready-made resources. We don't want you to have to spend time having to do content creation when we can help you out and save you some time. We want your time to be spent with your students and building those relationships. So having something that's already ready-made really cuts off that time for a teacher. So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to do first is I'm going to actually start building a lesson about vocabulary. So Sarah, I want you to start thinking, because I need your help in just a second. We're going to do a vocabulary building activity. And what I want to do is I want to do it on like shades of meaning, right? So words have different grades of what they mean. And I really want my students to identify not only synonyms, but really just the different shades of meaning. So that's the lesson I'm going to create today. All right, you have your thinking cap on, Sarah. I'm going to need your help.
I sure do.
All right, and anybody else, you guys can help us put it in the chat. So what I'm going to do first here is I'm going to bring up a new page. It's going to populate, and it's going to open up in Smart Learning Suite Online's editing mode. I know I'm in editing mode because I have this blue bar at the top, and I have some brand new tools, which I'm going to show you. So the very first thing I'm going to do up here is I'm going to name my file and have that there. And now this is a blank page. I have so many options here, but what I want to do is I'm actually going to put a word in the middle of the page, and the word is just going to be power. And I'm going to delete the things I don't want. I could add more if I wanted to, but I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to actually bring this word, make it bigger. And what I want my students to do is when I present this to my students, I'm going to actually make this a collaborative workspace where I want my students to just start generating ideas or bring in images of when they see that word power, what comes to mind. I mean, this is a really great activity, especially a collaborative activity for our students, so that they can start, kind of deeper thinking and really getting those juices flowing and seeing what their peers are also thinking about and adding on to what they're saying. But I'm going to actually lock this down. So now when I send it to my student devices, they won't be able to move it. It'll be permanently like painted on. Now, one thing I want to show you, and you probably already noticed, is I have this little button that when I float over, it turns blue. And if you can see at the very bottom of my screen, it says this page is in view only for student devices, which means when it's time for me to deliver this, this lesson, when my students come to this page, it's only going to be in view only. And I will, there's a place for that, and I might want to keep it that way while I explain the directions, but I want to actually make it into a collaborative workspace. So right down here, if I float over while I'm in editing mode, I can actually click on it, and I have a choice here. I can make this page an individual handout. So that means I can actually give my students each their own copy that doesn't interfere with anybody else's copy. It's like me handing out papers in the classroom to each one of my students. I could do that, or I can make it into a collaborative workspace. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to just put the word power at the top. I can preview it. I can go back and edit, but that page is good to go. Are there any questions so far, Sarah?
Not yet in the chat, but feel free to ask questions as we go.
Cool. All right. So now I'm igniting that engagement. I'm sparking that learning with my students. I want them to start thinking about vocabulary, different words that are being used. But I also want to introduce the shades of meaning. So if you have noticed down at the very bottom, there's a little blue button that actually, when you float over, I can click on it. It's going to bring up that familiar window that we had earlier. And this time I want to bring in a YouTube video. And I want to share a YouTube video with my students to really capture what shades of meaning sounds like and looks like. So I'm going to click on the YouTube. And this is a YouTube search. And so it's a safe search. So nothing questionable, but always in best practices, you want to review the video before. But I have this really great video that I have found earlier called Shades of Meaning. And I am looking for, and I'll see if I can find it. Here it is right here. Shades of Meaning by Caitlin Durham. Now, again, these are all safe search. I can click here and on the little YouTube video here, and I can preview it. A little window pops up and I can watch it. Click out of it. But if this is the video I want, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say save, and I've got to go all the way down and it's not going to let me. Let's go. Let me do my window a little bit for you guys. There we go. There's a little add button at the very bottom, and I'm going to go ahead and add it. Now notice it just went into my thumbnails, and when it's time for presentation mode, my students can see it on their own computer, or we might watch it together in a synchronous setting, right? So we have so many options right here. So now I've added a collaborative workspace. I've added a YouTube video to really capture the meaning of what shades of meaning are. And now what I want to do, and I'm most excited about this, Sarah, because for those of you who are following us on any of our social media, you might know that last week we launched a brand new smart activity. So I want to show you that, and we're going to actually create one together. We just added, if you go back into the blue button, and you see right here where it says game-based activities, this is so much fun I love doing content creation. I love looking at this, but there's all these game-based activities that you can send to your student devices where they can reinforce their learning. You can check their understanding. It's a great place for self-efficacy for our students. But here's what I want to show you. Down at the very bottom right here, we now have an even number of games. We have a word search. I'm so excited. So Sarah, have you used the word search?
Yes. Sometimes I'm working with some primary teachers, and we're always working on different word families or vocabulary or building our spelling skills. So word search has been a really fun new tool to try using.
Okay, so I'm going to build that, but I want to point out a couple things. If this is your very first time in Smart Learning Suite Online, anytime you see this magnifying glass, if you click on it, it'll do a quick little simulation so you can see possibilities. But I want to give you the disclaimer that this is just a quick simulation, and there's so many ways to use these activities in your classroom. So take a look at the previews and then play. Let me show you how easy it is to build. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on word search. It's going to open up a window, and I'm going to actually name mine. I love giving titles just because it just feels, I guess, complete. And then you can decide your grid size. It goes all the way up to 18 by 18 on the grid size. You can decide the difficulty of it. If you push the difficult one, I tried to do this the other day and I couldn't find all my words. It was really hard. So high school and middle school teachers, challenge your students, and you can click the difficult one. I'm going to click moderate. And Sarah, what I want to do is I want to come up with some words that are shades of meaning, but also that they can, build their vocabulary. Do you have any ideas? Like if I say mad, what would you say? Another word, like a shades
Maybe
of meaning
angry.
of mad. Oh, I like that. Okay. And then if I say simple,
But easy.
Okay, so you guys see what I'm doing right here, and it tells me how many more I can do. I can add 16 more. I'm going to say huge, Sarah. What are you going to say?
I'm going to go with massive.
Ooh, awesome. That's a great word. Oh my gosh, kids will have fun looking for that one. And then if we say shut,
Close.
okay, you get the idea. And then this, and I can actually change it, play around. And of course, nothing is permanent because you always can come back and edit. I click next. I have 4 different themes. I like the simple one. I really do. And look at what it looks like. How easy is that? And what I really like is that if you want to, you can have your students play this game. This is how easy it is. I can do a click for a hint. It's not as easy as it looks. I actually, so I see C, but that's not the beginning of the letter. Sometimes in this case, there's close. So you can actually play with it, see what it looks like. But look how this can reinforce your vocabulary. You can add another page and say, all right, I want you to pick 3 more words from the vocabulary that you just did on the word search. And I want you to put those in sentences or in a passage or find them in your novel or whatever you're doing. But anyway, we just have word search. So anything to add, Sarah?
Oh, just some excitement in the chat over the new
Woohoo!
game. Students are enjoying it. Now, Jody, since it is a new activity, is this one that I could use during my synchronous learning or asynchronous learning? Does it work for
Perfect.
both?
It can work for both. Yeah. So this could be an example. In fact, a lot of the different game-based activities, you could be creating like a word search and then maybe a match them up or a super sort. And then you can send them to your students in your LMS, like Google Classroom, or if you're at Microsoft Teams or Canvas, you can put it inside any of those. Okay, I actually want to add one more thing on this page. So you might have noticed down here in the very bottom, we have a little audio. So if I click on it, I can add audio instructions or maybe extension directions for students to do after they finish the word search. But I can add some audio to any of my pages, even the YouTube page and the collaborative workspace. So in that asynchronous setting, it's really awesome to be able to add audio because you're not there, right? But your students can still hear your voice and have the information in front of them. So the audio is really simple. I start recording. I can go ahead and tell them what the directions are. After you're done with the word search, I want you to pick 5 of the words and I want you to add them and then come up with some shades of meaning. So come up with 3 or 4 other words for each of the words you have. And there you have it. I click pause. And when I'm satisfied with my recording, I'm going to add it. Right here, remember I'm in editing mode, so I can go back and edit my audio. I can go back and edit my word search. Nothing is permanent.
And
Any questions?
Jody, yeah,
Yeah.
with that audio feature, it's bubbling up in the chat. And I was thinking the same thing, for my students who are maybe learning a second language or, strengthening their native language skills, things like that. So it can just be such a great way to help just so many different learners just to be able to add that piece of audio.
It is. It's so powerful. So, and you can put it on any page. So that's also a big.
And for asynchronous learning, someone's just saying that in the chat too. I love it. It's just that flexibility that's just so helpful, right?
Yes, I love it. All right, we're not done. Okay, so far we've added a collaborative workspace. We've added a YouTube safe search right there. We added a game-based activity. I could add more on there, but we already got 3 pages and I've done it in less than probably 10 minutes. It's like so easy to do this content creation. Now, if you're like, okay, I have a lot of content I don't want to have to redo, and it's like, great, don't redo it. But think about how you could use Smart Learning Suite Online to help enhance the lessons you already have. So leave your lesson that you have in PowerPoint or leave your lesson that you already have and then come into Smart Learning Suite Online and have some activities to reinforce the learning that you just did if you want to start somewhere. All right, we're not done. I want to show you some other really fabulous features that we have in Smart Learning Suite Online. And this one right here is back at that little blue button. We've done YouTube video, we've done a new page, we've done a game-based activity. But I want to point out right down here, we actually have manipulatives. So take a look at those when you have some time. They are fabulous and they also have a little preview button. But I want to focus on graphic organizers. Now, I don't know about you, but just trying to find the right graphic organizer sometime. I don't have time to go out and find that PDF. It's all right here. And I feel like we have some really fabulous graphic organizers that have so many open-ended ways of using them. And if you are into focused note taking, we do have a Cornell note taking template right here, and we have a Frayer model. Take a look at all of these that we have and how you could use them in science and in math. And of course, ELA and second language learners. Oh my gosh, so many different possibilities. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this one where it's a 3-column note. I'm not going to do it like a real 3-column note like you usually can do. What I want to do in this one is I'm going to take the text tool that's at the top of my editing window, and I'm going to add 3 words that I'm going to want my students to come up with different shades of meaning. So the first word I'm thinking of is drink, and I can bold it and I can enlarge it. In fact, watch what I can do here. I can click on it and then enlarge it, put it right up there. I'm going to actually duplicate it. I'm always looking for shortcuts, right? And I think on this one, I'm going to do the word pretty. Let's resize that one a little bit. And then I'm going to duplicate that one. You get what I'm doing, everybody? And now what I'm going to do is I think the word walk is a good word to do shades of meaning. Now, what I'm going to do here is I can go lock down my words if I want. I won't go through it all, but you can see that I can lock down my words so my students can't mess with it. I really feel like this is a page where I want my students to have some audio for instruction, because maybe I start this in a synchronous setting or face-to-face, and my students, I'm like, hey, this is what you can do. But then it's time for them to go and finish it maybe in an asynchronous way. I definitely will want to add some audio and just let them know, again, what the directions are. And I would add that. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can have collaborative workspaces, you can have individual handout. So I'm going to return down here at the bottom of my page, and I'm going to convert this page into an individual handout. Unlike the other one, I made it into a collaborative workspace. I'm going to go handout. And now when it's time for me to deliver this page, all of my students will get their individual page and they can do their own practice on shades of meaning. So that's pretty cool right there. All right, we are going to add one last piece, which is very dear and to my heart. At being an avid teacher, we know how important it is to have reflection after we have some lesson and the students have time to process and make meaning and construct their own knowledge. I really want them to have the opportunity to reflect on their learning. And so I'm going to add a 5th page here. Notice that I have 3 pages. I have a collaborative workspace, I have a YouTube video, I have a game, I have a handout where I'm really checking in with them. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in a second. And now I'm going to go back to that blue button. And right here at the very ready-made resources, I have questions and reflections. And there's already 12 of them ready for me. I don't have to make them. So look at all of your options. I'm going to go down to the handout. And I think I'm going to add this one where it says, how would you explain what you've learned about shades of meaning? All I had to do is click on it. One click, it's in my lesson. I can move it if I wanted to up here or rotate it, but I have that option. I'm going to preview it. Oh, I love it. How easy is that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have created a lesson on shades of meaning strictly in Smart Learning Suite Online. I'm in editing mode. I'm feeling pretty good about it. I now want to present it to my students. Are there any questions so far that we might need to address?
A couple of questions have come through, but one that we can chat about right now is someone was wondering if, while we're looking at the graphic organizers, if those are going to be available in Notebook.
Oh, that is such a great question. And I don't have an answer. Do you, Sarah?
No, I know I use my gallery in Notebook to save different graphic organizers so I can easily add them to lessons. But yeah, that's a great great question. We'll have to follow up on that one.
You know what? Whoever is asking that, I'd love to connect with you because I can give you these graphic organizers in a notebook form. So I'm happy to share that with you if you have that. I can make your day. I can let you have those because we've created those. So please
Awesome.
reach
So,
out to me.
Pop in your email in the chat to help.
Oh
Help
my gosh, everybody email me. Yeah, I'll help you out there.
And then, as you're showing us this flow here, Jody, and you're kind of, showing us then how to go and, finish editing our lesson, a great question came through about, if I'm teaching hybrid students, can I share this lesson through Google Classroom as well as deliver it with my students? So I know that's something that you're going to get to today.
Yes, yes. And the answer is yes. It's like I can start this lesson in face-to-face with my students, put it in my Google Classroom, share a link in there, and then they have access to this file. So I'll show you where you can get that link. But what I would recommend is if you are a Google user, we in the resources, we actually have some YouTube videos of prior webinars. One of them is a Google, if you're a Google user, how do you get started with Smart Learning Suite online? And that will walk you through the whole setup. So that will help you too. But again, we can answer those questions. All right, are you ready for this? So I've got all my my pages are ready. I'm ready to deliver to my students. So I'm going to click up here to finish editing. I'm back in my dashboard right here. And if you can see, this is my lesson right here. And if I float over it, I'm going to click start. So when it's time for my students to enter my class, whether you're on a smart board or if you are running your lesson through your device, I'm going to click start. I know I'm in presentation mode because my screen turns black and I have these black bars on both sides, unlike when I'm in editing mode. So this is how you know. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, I have brand new tools. So if that's the way it is, and I'm going to just show you quickly, if you don't mind, I'm going to drag this over. I want to show you what it would look like for your students to join. So students would go to Hello Smart. Let me go back here. When I'm ready for my students to join, my students will go to hellosmart.com. And I'm going to show you where I went. I went to this little icon at the very top left corner that looks like little people. And at the top, it has my name, my class ID. I am going to click this little arrow to pop out. This will always be there. I guarantee you, I don't care what grade you teach, your students will know this pretty quickly. So hellosmart.com, they will enter the class code that will be displayed on there. You will be able to see the students join. And right over here, if you click, if you had students in your class, you would see them right here. And as they're going through, if this was ready for the collaborative workspace and I had all of my students in, I would then go ahead and separate them into collaborative groups. If I'm in here, but I don't have any students right now, so you're not going to be able to see what that looks like. But you would see right here on the screen, you can have up to 9 teams with 6 people. Let me say that again. You can have up to 9 teams with 6 people on each team. Or if you love organized chaos, you could have everyone on the same team in the same workspace. But they will get into that team, and you are able to navigate between each one of those. If my students go to hellosmart.com, they can join either with their school credentials or just join as a guest. They put in the class ID. This is how easy it is for students. And then they join. And the best part about it is that when I change my screen, the students also changes. When I change my screen, the student changes. So notice that I have the YouTube video here. Students can play the YouTube video on their own device. What I love about it is that I'm one of those people when they watch a YouTube video, I have to watch it a couple times because the first time I'm just looking at it visually. I'm not really listening to it. I'm just like looking at it. And so I would be that student in class that needs to have it repeated. So I love the idea as a student. I can go back and visit this video as many times as I want to reinforce my learning. And then again, as I move over students, here's the students, here's the audio, they're ready to go. It's so easy, right? And then the 3-column notes, students can go ahead and log in. Once they start it, it's like having their own page, and look at the tools that they have. They can add images, they can put it in pen, they can change it. There's just so many things that students have access to, and it's so much prettier. There's just so much. Sarah, is there anything that we need to address?
I was just emphasizing in the chat that right now you're showing us that synchronous or live learning experience, and then you'll also show us how to share this with students for that asynchronous or independent learning experience.
Absolutely.
If students are absent or if you have specific asynchronous time.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually show you both of them. So let me just show you. So I'm in presentation mode. You guys know that because I have the black bars on both sides. This little 3 horizontal lines at the top, some people call it the pancake, some people call it the hamburger. If you click on that, I encourage you to see your options here. So you can go back and edit your lesson from here. You can end your lesson. You can share your lesson and you can make a copy. So if you're a teacher who, you made this awesome lesson, but you have multiple periods, you can make a copy. You can rename them, period 1, period 2. But you have all of these awesome options right inside your presentation mode. What I want to point out right here, so if you want to share it, let's say with your students for them to finish it in an asynchronous setting, you go right here, open up the share, and then it says, let students access this lesson and work at their own pace. You can copy this link, and then you can paste it in an email. You can paste it in your LMS. You can put it in your Google Classroom and have that there and create an assignment, and then your students have access. Do you want to add anything about the Google Classroom, Sarah?
Oh, no, that was a great point, Jody, and that question came up too, that I know with Google Classroom specifically, you can make a copy of files for each student, but the way this lesson is going to work is students actually just get that individual access, and if a page is set up to be individual, then they each get a copy. If it's set up to be a shared space, then they work together. So really flexibility comes to my mind when I'm sharing these lessons with students, because each page can have its own purpose.
Right, exactly. So here's what I'm going to do one more time, just so you can see. I can end my lesson when I'm in presentation mode. I can go back to editing. I can share a link. And I don't know if you saw this, but I also can share a link with my colleagues or a teacher. It is a different type of link. They have different access. So it's really important that if it's for the student and you want them to have access, you use the student link. If you want a teacher to have their own copy that you just created, it's a siloed copy. So once those, like Sarah made this really awesome lesson for me, she copies that lesson link. I open it up. I'm going to have my own copy of that lesson that she just gave me. I can modify it. I can, change it, delete it, add to it, whatever I want, but I didn't have to start it from scratch. And I like that. All right, I'm going to end my lesson and go back right here. And what I want to do in closing, and we'll hang on for a few more minutes, is I want to provide you with some resources that are really going to help you jumpstart this journey. And by no means did we cover everything, but we're hoping that we gave you a quick taste of what you can do in Smart Learning Suite online. And I think the word that I really like that I hear Sarah using is it has a lot of flexibility. Sarah's going to put in the chat, and it's also right here. This is a great resource right here. It's a bit.ly, but what I like about it is that if you want to go and get a teacher guide, you can click right here and it'll show you what you can do. If you want to see how Smart integrates with other tools like Seesaw or Flipgrid or Avid. We've got resources for you. And then, of course, we have more awesome smart webinars that are coming up. The Ready, Set, Smart. We'd love for you to join us, and we pretty much are all over social. So please follow us, because we are always giving lessons away, great ideas when new releases happen. You're the first to know. Do you want to add anything, Sarah?
No, there's just some great resources. We do have a few extra questions to address. So
Okay.
I just want to let everyone know that we'll let Jody show us those resources. And I've also put a link in the chat for you to provide us some feedback after today's session. But once we have Jody show us these resources, we'll answer the rest of these questions. So I just want to let everyone know that we will address your questions.
Absolutely. And just always, I feel like, you can sit and watch, but you got to try this. Promise me in the next week that you're going to try something that we shared with you today. Maybe it's starting with a commercial-free YouTube video and just adding that and sending it to student devices. Please check out all 12 of the game-based activities. There's some really fun ones in there. There's one that I would say that is really fun to do. If you haven't, it's called Monster Quiz. It's a class activity where they're independently working, but collaboratively trying to hatch a monster. It is a hit for students. We also look at the ready-made graphic organizers. And of course, have your students go to hellosmart.com and connect to your awesome lesson. And then, of course, I want you to watch your students have a lot of fun while they're learning. And then in the end, we do have a survey, and we're going to answer questions. It's right there, and Sarah will put it in the chat. We'd love to hear your feedback and what works for you. And let's start answering those questions, Sarah.
All right. So I'm typing in an answer right now, so we can just address it. This was a great question. So one of the questions was about using some extensions with SLSO. Those are great questions, whether specific extensions will work. So we would have to, test out those different extensions to see if they do work with some of the tools. One thing that I love about the workspaces and handouts is students can add screenshots too. Mm-hmm. So if I have them, incorporating a screenshot of maybe an equation or a graph that they found, they can add images to workspaces or handouts. So if there's a very specific extension or something you wanted us to take a look at, I can, I'll pop Jody's email in the chat here again, and I can pop mine in here as well. And you're welcome just to reach out to us specifically, and we can try to take a look at if some of those are working. So
and I'd like to add to that. If it doesn't work, remember in your dashboard, when you are working on your dashboard, there's a feedback and also request a feature. The developers are always looking at those, probably on a weekly basis. And if it's something that you're like, wow, this would really impact my experience with my students, feel free to put that in there. So you do have a really big voice as a user of Smart Learning Suite Online, and we'd love to hear what you're thinking and what needs to be improved.
Yeah, like this great question that just popped in the chat about students responding in audio. That would be an awesome feature to request. So I popped in the link again, or I popped in that link in the chat. So that would be a great feature to ask for to be added. That would be awesome for students to be able to add in audio. So another question, Jody. What is the downside of having students join as a guest versus signing in? So what's something we need to keep in mind there?
Okay, so here's how you have to look at it. So let's say this is just in the moment learning, and I really don't want to collect any data on my students. It's just like, hey, we're just going to go into this space together, and I just want you in here, and we're just going to do these activities, and then we're done. So join as a guest is a great way to do that, because students just join, add the code, and then their name. That's as good as it gets, like short and sweet and to the point. If you want to extend the learning and you really want to have students accountability, it's important for them to sign in with their school credentials. And in the near future, as we're really building the infrastructure of Smart Learning Suite Online, there's all these great possibilities of collecting more data on the different activities that your students are going to be participating in. So that's really our end goal, is to give you all the data that you need to help drive your instruction. And so having students sign in is going to help collect that data. Having students just join as a guest is kind of like that, oh, really short and sweet. Let's just do this together right now. I'm really not going to collect data. I just need you in this lesson, participating, doing all this. You want to
Yeah,
add anything,
especially
Sarah?
if I want that lesson to maybe continue on to a second day, or I want students to continue working on a lesson asynchronously, I want them to sign in, because otherwise they can't come back to their work and continue adding to it. So like Jody said, it's just a one-time access to that specific work if they're signing in as a guest.
And
So
think of it like it's a key, right? So you don't want just any student going into your classroom or whatever. So it's nice to be able to have students that you are aware of, that are yours, sign in with their school credentials, and then you can see their email address, you can see all their names. Whereas as a guest, if you saw me do it with the student, and I think I might have, let me see. If I go out here, let me just leave my class right here, and let's try it again. Notice right here, students have the accessibility to put in their own name. Well, you have little stinkers that might, put in another name. So, and you really can't help that. So again, if you really want to have that accountability, having your students sign in is a great one. And there's awesome, in the near future, there's going to be some more infrastructure changes for you, if that makes sense.
yeah. So let's see. Another question that is popping in, asking about creating teams. So I'm thinking maybe that's creating the teams on a workspace. If maybe Jody, you just want to show us that real quick.
Yes. Okay. So let's do this. I'm actually going to go out and go back to my lesson here. And the shades of meaning, I'm going to edit. And I'm actually going to, oh, that's not the one I wanted. Let's go back here. Let's see. Oh, it was shaved in. So let me go into a different file. Let's do this one right here. Okay. Oh, that's not good. Sorry, I'm going to try to find a file that I use. How about, oh, this one. Okay. So I have the different countries, and I'm going to actually add a page right here. So this little plus sign, I'm in presentation mode. And let's say I am, asking my students about different countries. I want to know what they know about, maybe let's say South America. And now I want them to have a collaborative experience, brainstorming some different things that they know. I'm going to go ahead and add this page. I'm in presentation mode right now, just so you can see. And what I want to do is I'm going to add it as a collaborative workspace. Now I can go up to my class management icon and notice that I have those buttons that I had in editing mode. So I can do this on the fly in the middle of my lesson. I can change it to a handout where everybody gets their own, or I can make that collaborative workspace. Now, here's what I know about the collaborative workspace that I would like to share with you. When the students log into hellosmart.com and add my code, I'm going to see all of my students over here in the class management tool. When it's time for me to make my teams, I will pick how many teams I would like. There'll be numbers right up here. All right. There'll be numbers from 1 to 9, depending on how many you want on each of your team. Once I've done that, and I'm sorry I can't show you the window right here, I will be able to see each of my teams. And the best part is, as a teacher, I can drop in to all of my teams in real time. I can give them real-time feedback. I can give them a digital sticker. Here's the thing that I love to share. I can even click on anything that's on that collaborative workspace that my students have added, and I will be able to see which student contributed that item on that page. So if there's teams that are like, hey, Jody's not pulling her weight, I can go in and say, well, let's see what Jody's done. And I can actually give a real time answer to that. So I don't know, did that answer the question, Sarah? I want to make sure I didn't skip over that.
So here, actually, Jody, can you pop up your class ID for me real quick?
Yep.
So Jody doesn't have anyone signed into her class, and I think that might be, so we couldn't see the team. So I'm going to go ahead and join her class.
I'm going to go ahead and join it too, so we can have at least two students on here.
And then we can see that team feature. And if you're really excited to learn more about, someone said they would join too, so I'll pop
go ahead,
class
Caroline.
ID in there. If you're really interested in learning more about these collaborative workspaces, we actually are going to be taking an even deeper dive into these next week.
Yes.
With the webinar we have coming up too. So
Sarah is doing the webinar next week. It is a perfect time for collaborative. So if we don't answer your question, sign up for Sarah's webinar. All right, so we have 3 people I can see, and right now I have 4 people. Thank you. So what I can do here is I can decide how many teams. I'm going to do 2 teams. It's going to automatically sort my students, and let's say that I would like to switch my students around. As a teacher, I get the last word, and I really like that. And then once my teams are all solidified and I'm happy with them, I can go right here and say start workspaces. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like from the teacher side. So I have these 2 workspaces, and I can drop in to my students right here, and they can add images. I can give them feedback over here. I can use my tool, and I can collectively see what's going on in each one of my teams. Now, from the student perspective, I'm going to switch over to the screen. Here is my student right here, and I'm going to add an image, and let's just say we're looking at words, and I'm going to find an image that fits the word power. And I can resize it. My colleagues or my peers can take a look at it. I see some others are coming in. Now, this is what I want to point out. If I go into my team, and I'm a teacher right now, so I'm looking in on team 1, I can click on anything that's happening, drop down arrow, and I know that Jody added this. I can come down to this cute puppy. I can see that S handle this, like they added it to it. And I can now leave some feedback. I always like to type in a different color for my students. And I always do this. I always do JB, so my students know it's me. And I just say, this is looking great. And
and I have other teachers, they've given this great tip of when they give feedback in workspaces or handouts, they always use the same color, and they tell students, my color is blue, I'm always going to write in blue, so choose another color to write, and then students immediately can see that teacher feedback.
I like that too. I always do it in green, Sarah, so I totally get it. But I can add it. And I also sometimes will, just kind of always tell my students to look in the bottom right-hand corner or whatever. But I can add that. So that's a little bit in a nutshell. Like Sarah said, she's going to go probably deeper into what a collaborative workspace might look like. So I'd love for you guys to join. But I hope that answered a little bit of the overarching of what a collaborative workspace looks like.
Kind of give you that preview. And then those resources, so I can pop that link into the chat one more time, but
I could do it too.
Resource link, there's some awesome, little videos, some how-tos that'll help you explore that a little bit more if you're really curious, in the meantime. Okay, great. It looks like that answered the question. And then another question here, Jody. So SLSO, is that replacing Smart Notebook? Can I use my Smart Notebook files with SLSO? So what's the link there?
I'm so glad. Now you guys are going into the deep stuff now. like this isn't just getting started with Smart Learning Suite Online. You're asking those higher level questions, which I love. So here's the deal. So Smart Learning Suite is actually a package. And if you have Smart Learning Suite Online, you have access to Smart Notebook software that lives on your device, right? you can take it. In fact, when you are in a smart notebook file, you can share directly a link and it'll automatically populate a copy of that lesson in your Smart Learning Suite online file. So it's all embedded. If you are a Google user, I always recommend to my Google users to put your Smart Notebook files inside your Google Drive. And then you can actually just right click on that file and open with Smart Learning Suite Online. Again, we have a video that will show you how to do that if you need that. But yes, Smart Notebook. I do a lot of building in Smart Notebook first, and then I bring my files into Smart Learning Suite Online because I do like to do content creation, and I know Sarah does too. So good
Right. But if
question.
you haven't used Smart Notebook in a long time, you could just dive right on into SLSO and use your existing materials that way too.
Yeah, it's a win-win no matter what.
Awesome. Okay. So it looks like one more comment about maybe some of the notebook files that have been created previously maybe come into SLSO and the layouts might be a little different. So feel free to check out those resources. And then if you still have a question after that about bringing your notebook files in, you're welcome to connect with us directly and we can help you out with that. Maybe take a look at the file, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You all have asked these really great questions. And Sarah, it's been wonderful. And I'm sure you've been busy in the chat.
Yep. And one final question that just popped in.
Oh, good.
That adding Smart Learning Suite to Google Slides for interactive lessons. So actually what I do is I might build Google Slides, but then I bring that file right into SLSO and then I'll add games and activities from there. So if you have Google Drive integrated with SLSO, you can just bring those files right in. And let me grab that very specific link here. I know I had it pulled up for everyone, but we have a specific Google guide here on, let me pop this specific link in here for everyone. That's kind of a longer little URL there, but if you click on that link, it'll take you to where we have some integration guides, including a Google guide.
Perfect. Again, we have some YouTube we can send you, and it will be the follow-up. When you get your follow-up email to this, you're going to actually have a link to this recording of this one, but what it goes out to YouTube. So wait a couple days, probably first of next week or whatever, when you get the email. But we have a YouTube playlist of all the webinars, and there's already one or two about Google integration with SLSO. And if you can't wait for that, go on to YouTube and we can send you the link or email me and we can do that.
Oh my goodness. Well, what a fun afternoon, evening with you all, depending on where you're at. But yep, we want to definitely thank you for joining us. But thank you all for joining us today.